Yes. And there we go. Okay, so welcome.
Don't worry.
And to my first online cooking session with a few more people than just one. Okay, what I'm going to show you today is how to cook my favorite super green stir fry, but I'm not going to make it super green. I'm going to make it more colorful than that, because that's what I've got in terms of ingredients that need to be used up. So that's also quite important in times like this when we can't get all the vegetables we want to. Just make a stir fry with anything you've got left in your fridge. So I always start with some beneficial oil. I use my own ghee, make it myself. And ghee is clarified butter, which is very beneficial for your gut lining. That's why I love it. And it also gives a certain really nice flavor to every meal. And you may actually know this taste from all the curries you get when you get a takeaway. They use ghee as well, or should be using ghee to be authentic. You can also use coconut oil, and there is a version that's odorless, so it doesn't taste like coconut, because I don't like the taste of coconut. But that's another good frying oil, and you can also use olive oil. Those are my preferred 3 frying oils because they are heat resistant. So anything, you know, like when you heat up oil, you have to be really careful that they can stand the heat and don't turn into something that we don't want, something harmful in the body. So I'm going to switch on my gas. And without further ado, I'm going to start cooking. So 1 tablespoon of ghee or any other oil you've got. And then what I do after this has melted, I start with frying some spices, some aromatic spices. Now, my favorite ones are fennel seeds. Just say cinnamon sticks, but this is fennel. And cumin seeds, which are high in zinc, which is very good for our immune system at this moment in time. Mustard seeds and black onion seeds. And all of them really help, you know, improving our digestion in one way or the other. So now that my ghee has melted a bit, I'm going to put some of these spices in. I'm not very particular how much. You just like shake it a little bit and try to not shake it too much. And then you've got like too many mustard seeds or nigella seeds. It doesn't really matter. If it happens, it happens. But so this is what it looks like at the moment. I hope you can see it. And then the next thing I'm going to do is cut an onion. So just keep an eye on this, that it doesn't get too hot. In the meantime, we can start peeling and chopping an onion. I've actually not got an onion here, but a shallot. I don't think many people cook with that sort of type of an onion. I just thought, you know, I'd get something in like this, just in case I want to have some variety in my food and not just red onions all the time, because that's my favorite onion, red onion. Right. You can ask me any questions you like if you want.
The question I was going to ask was the odorless coconut that you mentioned. Where do you get those from?
From Fiona, actually. So you can see the label here, hopefully.
Okay. Yeah.
I reuse the jars when, you know, the
so Fiona.
Finished. Yeah. It's
okay.
Organic as well, which is important because we store toxins in our fat tissue. So
yeah.
we actually want to have as pure an oil as possible, so that we don't store toxins from the oil in our body. The other thing to be aware of with oils is that it has to be in a dark bottle. There's a lot of oil that is sold in transparent plastic bottles. First of all, oil leaches into plastic when it's warm. So when the sun shines on a transparent plastic bottle, that's when the plastic can leach into the oil. And then also you have to keep the oils away from sunlight so that there's no damage to the oil. So in a transparent bottle, you can actually be sure and certain that that oil is already damaged in one way or the other. So always keep your oils away from direct light. I always keep it in the cupboard, not next to the stove. And that's also something that many people do. They keep the oil next to the stove, and that's actually quite close to a heat source. Yeah, oils need to be stored cool and in a dark place.
So ideally in a glass bottle then?
Yes, glass bottle.
A glass bottle, ideally a dark glass bottle, and ideally in a dark cupboard.
Yeah, like this. This is a, like
okay, yeah,
glass bottle, green glass. That's ideal, and it's
perfect
as well.
Cool.
Right. So in the meantime, our onion is frying away, and the next thing we're going to add is some garlic. Garlic is a superfood. It has a little bit of everything we need, and the Romans used it as an antibiotic. So that's how powerful it is. It's also antimicrobial, antibacterial, antifungal, anti-everything. It is a bit of a faff, the garlic, but it is worth the effort to put it in. I was always debating at the beginning, like when I lost my husband, shall I really bother with garlic? And then I thought, no, I will, because I love garlic and I know it's so beneficial. So just make this extra effort for the garlic. And then the next thing, I always put ginger in everything I eat. Breakfast, lunch, or dinner. It always has some ginger in it. I love ginger, and it's again so beneficial. It's again antibacterial, antifungal, anti-inflammatory, and that's like with lung problems, that's really important. What people are dying of is high inflammation. So our diet at the moment has to be high in anti-inflammatory foods, and ginger is one of the best. Garlic, onion, olive oil is very anti-inflammatory, and vegetables in general. Okay, so I'm cutting this up. I'm sorry you won't be able to see this unless I turn it down a bit. Right, so just chop it up roughly. We're not in a chopping competition. So I'm not a chef. I'm just a normal housewife. I'm not a normal one, but there we go. So, and where is my wooden spoon gone? There we are. So just fry the ginger as well, and then we're going to start with the vegetable that takes longest to stir fry, and that's fennel in my case. So you can use anything you have in the fridge. I'm also going to use some carrots later on, but I'll show you what I do with carrots in a stir fry. So I chopped the end bits off a little bit because I'm not so sure about whether they are nice enough to eat. And then I start chopping the fennel from the top with all the fluffy bits, which are also edible. And then I just chuck it in. Again, just chop it in small bits. Doesn't have to be precise. And you can decide how much fennel you want. So I decided this is enough. Fennel, because I also want to add some more vegetables. I want to have a big variety. The next thing I'm going to use is a carrot. And of course we need to peel it first. Chop off the end bits. And then I'm going to grate it, because this way it's going to be ready, the carrots, when everything else is ready. If I chop it in pieces, it won't be ready, it will still be hard. So we want to be able to digest this well, because what we tend to not do is chew well. So if we can help our digestion by grating things and already breaking things up a bit, our digestion is going to be so much better. So there is a bit again, and it's starting to look very colourful. And the next bit is going to be some asparagus. I've already cut off the end bit. I mean, I don't cut it off, I break it off. So that's how you do with asparagus. And again, you just cut it into bite-like pieces, like this. And chuck it in again. So now we've got 2 green vegetables. We've got some onion. We've got some orange carrot. I've also got some mange tout left, so I'm going to chuck that in as well, although it's green again. And I wanted to make this a bit more colourful. I also want to use things that need to be used up, because I don't want to have to chuck vegetables. And I've also got some shiitake mushrooms, which I quite like. And what you do with mushrooms is you just clean them like this, because you don't want to wash them, because then they're not as juicy anymore. So I use like 3 or 4 bigger pieces of mushroom. You can use any type of mushroom, you know, like chestnut mushrooms, the ordinary white mushrooms, oyster mushrooms, anything you can find in the supermarket. And in the meantime, just don't forget to stir. And again, you just chuck it and you cut it any way you like. And this is what it looks like now. And the last vegetable I'm going to put in is some bean sprouts. Again, the amount is really up to you, you know, like how hungry you are and what else you're going to eat with this. So this is the basic stir fry. It's ready now, but you can improve upon it. Well, first of all, by adding some pepper. Quite difficult to open this. The pepper is, I think, essential because it helps with our digestion again. And then you can choose whether you want to add some salt. I like using Himalayan rock salt because it's got more minerals in it. But you can also use tamari instead of Himalayan or any other salt. Tamari is a good sort of, it's very salty, first of all, so it's a very good substitute for salt. But it's also got the added benefit of being high in tryptophan. And tryptophan is tryptophan is the precursor of serotonin. And I don't know whether you've heard of serotonin, but serotonin is the happy hormone. So if you are depressed at all, you may want to up your intake of tamari, for example, to make sure your body can produce enough serotonin, because 90% of it is actually produced in our gut. So instead of taking antidepressants, I would use more tamari and improve my gut health, because that's where we produce our own serotonin. Okay, so I like adding a little bit to this, just a little bit. As I said, it's very salty. It's fermented soy sauce. And the other thing that's optional, but adds a very nice flavor to every stir fry, is toasted sesame oil. And this is also very anti-inflammatory. So don't worry about adding beneficial oils to a meal, because the body needs fat. You know, everybody who's on a low-fat diet is doing their body a big disservice. Every cell in our body needs fat, because we have a fat layer around every cell that needs to be nourished. The top bit of the cell needs to be as flexible as possible. So if we don't use any fat, then this layer is not being nourished. And if we use the wrong fats, like all the processed fats, the factory-made ones, and they actually make this fat layer very stiff. And the problem with a stiff fat layer around every tissue cell is that the nutrients can't go in because it's not flexible enough, but also the waste products can go out. So there has to be this flexibility. And it's also important for our energy levels to make the cell membrane as flexible as possible. So there's a lot of issues with that. And the other important reason why we need fat is that every nerve cell has got a myelin sheath, and that's made of fat. So if we have a low-fat diet, we don't nourish that either, and then you can get like dementia and Parkinson's, because all the nerve cells are not functioning properly. So we need fat, but we need to be careful to use the good ones. And I've already mentioned 3 of them: ghee, olive oil, and coconut oil. And coconut oil is villainized a lot, but it's antimicrobial, it's antibacterial. In these times, you need to really have also a lot of food in your diet that's antibacterial and antimicrobial, because it helps against viruses. So this is it. It's ready. The other added thing you can add is white sesame seeds. Not only do they make every stir fry look really beautiful, but they are also a good source of calcium, and also a good source of fiber and B vitamins. So my stir fry is ready. So I've made enough for 1 person. If you happen to be with 2 people, then you just have to add more vegetables. And my protein source, I always add a protein source, because we need to keep our blood sugar levels stable, right? So we need the fiber from the vegetables. That's one way of keeping them stable, but we also need protein. And again, we need the healthy fat. So these 3 things keep our blood sugar levels stable for various reasons, and I won't go into that because this is not a lecture. So I've prepared something that doesn't look very appetizing at the moment. It's marinated tofu, and I've melted some coconut oil and put some tamari in it. And as soon as I start frying this in the pan, it will look delicious. But it's just the coconut oil has, gone back into its original white state. So, and I just put this in a frying pan. And that's going to be my lunch today.
Amazing.
Tofu and the stir fry. And I don't know whether I've added that to the ingredients list, the other sources of tofu.
Let me tell you.
So instead of only eating and combining this with meat all the time, we should really keep meat to like 2 to 3 times a week that we eat meat, because it is inflammatory immediately. Animal meat is immediately inflammatory, so we need to keep it low. It's always the easiest way to, you know, like combine vegetables with some meat, but there's also other sources, like I also already mentioned, the tofu. There's also beans that you can add to the stir fry. There is buckwheat noodles that you could add, especially with the sesame oil. That's a very nice combination. There's also a very nice rice dish by Anjum, which I can post, and it's lovely, and it's just with a stir fry. It's just like, I can't describe how delicious that combination is.
Sounds awesome.
Like, wow. and Anjum's rice is, again, it's very flavoursome and just absolutely delicious. Yeah, and you can also do it, combine it with some hummus, which you can make yourself. And I'll show that in another cooking session, how you can make your own hummus and get creative with making that. And also
brilliant
other things, you know, vegetarian burger, vegan burger, you know, the options.
So many options.
So many options. You just have to know about them.
Well, absolutely. I think you made a good point about, you know, at this point in time we need things that are anti-inflammatory rather than inflammatory. The one you mentioned about antibacterial, I didn't quite catch which part of it was antibacterial.
What do you mean in the food?
In the food, you were talking about that there was something within the food that was antibacterial to our bodies, and I just didn't quite catch the
there's
word.
always, like in garlic, for example, there's so many different substances, chemicals.
Yeah.
Some are anti-inflammatory, some are antibacterial, some are antifungal, some are antibiotics. So I don't know exactly what, you know, what.
I think it was to do with garlic, because I was busy writing notes.
Yeah.
Notes
Yeah,
to self.
so you can always Google it, you know, like antibacterial garlic, and it will tell you the exact name of the substance that has that sort of property.
Yeah.
But it's always a combination. Food has a lot of beneficial properties, you know, like that's why we need to eat as wide a variety of vegetables and also protein as possible.
Absolutely.
And also the aromatic spices have got their own beneficial properties. So if we mix and match all the time, we get all the benefits from the food. And it always works in synergy with other foods. So we can never say, oh, it's been the coconut oil that killed the bacteria. Can also have the garlic together with the coconut oil.
It's the perfect match of all of the component parts coming together to be the miracle.
Yeah, and you always want to increase the benefits, you know, like you can never have too much of all the beneficial properties. And we don't want to be deficient in anything, especially not zinc at this moment in time, because zinc seems to be the substance that really kills and prevents the virus from replicating itself in our cells. So if we have a zinc deficiency, that's a big problem at the moment. And I'm not saying overdose and take now only a zinc supplement. No, make sure that you eat as wide a variety of vegetables and proteins as possible.
Absolutely.
And especially cumin seeds, if you add them to, you know, every meal you cook, apart from your breakfast, I don't think that's going to come at all.
Unless you're doing a sort of maybe an egg breakfast or something.
In an omelette you could cumin seeds. I do that regularly.
Absolutely.
But not on your bread or something.
On your muesli wouldn't be a top one. Brilliant.
There's zinc also in beans and lentils, you know. That's why it's important to have beans, for example.
Of course. No, that's
and of
brilliant.
course it is also in meat, but again, you know, you have to be like
balancing it. It's all about balance, isn't it?
Yeah. So not too much of this, not too much of that, and just like a nice mixture of everything. So yeah,
No, that's fabulous. Thank you so much, Sabina. I will let you go and eat this amazing food that you
I would love to.
Thank you.
Okay.
Yeah, absolutely. You don't want it cold.
No, I don't. We'll see you next week
Thank you so
then.
much. See you later.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye.